Let's talk about Mohau Modisakeng's series, Metamorphosis. I, in fact, have used one of that series at the cover of a book of my own called In the World. Why? Because for me, yes, it was feeding into, at that point in time, one of the biggest sort of markets in the art world, which is the black body, black lives. But the way in which Mohau captured it was somehow very, very mystical and strange, because what he reminded us of is that it is not simply apt or appropriate or even ethical to objectify black life, and worse, to monetize it, because that in itself becomes a new kind of slave trade. What was important was to show what it is that was more than just the body, more than just the gender, more than just the skin, more than just the story of oppression. And that had to do with the realm of magic or of superstition, or as I put it, of the occult. Now, if you know your Frantz Fanon, in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, he makes this brilliant formulation. He says, "It is in the zone of occult instability that the people dwell and the revolution comes from." Now, this sense of mysticism, of something strange and other that inhabits life, transforms life, makes it possible to have a better life. This is the energy that is moving through the ritualistic self-portraiture which Mohau engages in. If you look at the works themselves, they are, in a sense, chimerical, because he's not trying to show you his face or objectify a face. He's trying to actually show us how the spirit realm inhabits the physical realm. And it's in that intersection that we find this moment of transformative energy. And this is, I think, the power of the Metamorphosis series. What it tells us, though, is why we need that energy of transformation, and why now, in 2022, it's become even more critical than when Mohau actually made these works. And I think it was in 2016, 2017, around that period. I'm not sure about the exact dates. But the key thing is now, at this moment in time, right, after 100 years of secularism, because what happened after the First World War in Europe, certainly there was a major collapse in faith, an escalation in doubt, and this became irony in the era of pop and cynicism in the current moment, in the current age, where people don't believe in transformation, don't believe in possibilities, where people have become dangerously faithless. At the same time, what is happening right now is that we're having a collapse of democracy. We are having the rise of fascism. And here, as the great South African novelist K. Selodeko said in his book, The Quiet Violence of Dreams, he warned us against neo-black fascism. Now we find that happening right here in Johannesburg, across the country, where it becomes legitimate to scapegoat foreign nationals from Africa, to even scapegoat and slaughter those who have the right to be here, who are actually legal residents. So this dangerous, dark legitimacy, this fascist moment, is, for me, the inverse of a world of faith. It's the night world of the world at which Mohau is trying to communicate to us. So he's taking us in that tension, he's taking us through the transformation. There's a shamanic process in the way in which he's operating. What's also interesting, though, is that there's a great photograph by Santu Mofokeng, who is probably one of the greatest South African photographers of all time. And he has a photograph called Eyes Wide Shut. And in this photograph, what you see is an uncanny point between life and death, because Santu is photographing his dying brother. And he's doing it inside of a cave that has enormous spiritual relevance to that particular ethnic group that he is talking to and photographing. So for me, that moment, Eyes Wide Shut, that sense of things being open yet closed, that things are more at a threshold between worlds. And I think it's in that moment that the much younger Mohau is trying to return to find that moment between worlds, to occupy that moment between worlds, that liminal space, that margin, that threshold, and in that space saying, all is possible. The afterlife is possible, the current moment is possible, everything's part of a continuum. And I think it's that great thread, that thread of grace, which we need desperately right now in this world of terrifying extremes and of oppositional logics. As a further note to reflecting on photography, we're living in an age which is image saturated, a moment in time when the image is everything. So much so that we've detached ourselves from other realms and forget that an image, a photographic image, is simulacral. It's a copy of a copy. It's what it is. It's a world that lives at a remove. But we no longer care about that because why? The image is everything. Now, in the case of somebody like Mohau Modisakeng, what he's doing with that, though, he's trying to show us what is husk-like or ghost-like about the photographic image. So he's implicitly reminding us that this is a realm of detachment that is an integral part of what a photograph is. Now, Susan Sontag, in her book on photography, has a very beautiful assessment of exactly that moment. She says, the force of photographic images comes from there being material realities in their own right, richly informative deposits left in the wake of whatever emitted them, potent means for turning the tables on reality. So this idea of a wake, of something left behind, a trail, a trace, that in many ways is also what Mohau is thematizing in the Metamorphosis series. So he's doing things two ways. He's basically showing the photographs are ghost-like, and as Sally Mann would say, they're abductions of reality. They're cropped out of the continuum of life. They're suspended, they're in and of themselves things, but they can never tell the whole truth. But the important thing that's interesting is, why do we need the whole truth, knowing it's impossible to actually absorb and inhabit all of it? Why not accept the fragmentary, complex, richly connected threads that we have in our life and accept that as what matters, and that alone? And in that regard, photographs need not merely be abductions or traces. They could be ways of living well in the world. Just a thought in that regard, you know.